Hey guys, Wyatt Claypool here. I think one of the most frustrating things about living in Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's Canada is just the knowledge that if it wasn't for people like Prime Minister Trudeau and other woke, weak, and corrupt politicians across Canada, that we could be one of the most prosperous countries on the planet. We could be one of the safest. We could be one of the most community oriented but individually empowering places to live. And we just choose not to be because post nationalism is better, isn't it? Wouldn't it be great if Canada wasn't Canada? Well, no, but that's the perspective, it seems, of people like Justin Trudeau. He doesn't care that he's ruining Canada. And there are so many people around the Western world, leading countries, who just seem to have open contempt for their own people. They wish their people were different. They wish their history was different. They wish their culture was different. They want metropolitan culture only. Just woke metropolitan culture that seems to only think that places outside of Canada are cool and that we need those places to come here en masse because Canada's not really worth defending at all. I know people want to talk about the clip of Justin Trudeau dancing like a complete buffoon at the Taylor Swift Eras Tour concert in Montreal. I don't really care. Yeah, Justin Trudeau's always been kind of an idiot. He's trading friendship bracelets with young girls and young adult women. I don't care. He's a buffoon. I already know that. I care more of just the impact that he's had on Canada through just leftist woke ideology enabling that mass immigration, high taxes, high regulations, all this stuff. And he doesn't care. He has, I think, worse than just hatred for Canadians, he has contempt for Canadians. Hatred implies the man thinks about us and thinks about us in an intense, passionate, emotional way. Negatively so, but in an emotionally resonant way. He just seems to have contempt for us. Like, he doesn't even think about us. He'd have to be reminded that Canada actually has a population of people who vote for who they want in leadership. Once he gets past an election, it's like he doesn't even like care at all that other people in this country exist outside of him and his friends. But after there were mass riots in Montreal on Concordia University campus, anti Semites, anti Western rioters everywhere, this is what Justin Trudeau posted. And he was in the same city dancing it up at the same time all this was going on. And not until the next day did he actually post something about it. Trudeau said, "What we saw in the streets of Montreal last night was appalling. Acts of anti Semitism, intimidation, and violence must be condemned wherever we see them. The RCMP are in communication with local police. There must be consequences and rioters held accountable." Why doesn't he even just say people should go to prison? They should be long terms. They shouldn't be getting out so fast, considering what they did to our city. They should be deporting anyone who's not a citizen who took part in this. I actually favor if you're a dual citizen and you take part in anti Western riots, you support terrorist organizations, you damage other people's property, you're basically just a well known problem. We should have a law that allows us to revoke your Canadian citizenship and send you back to wherever your original citizenship was from. Or even if you were born here, I don't mind kicking you out to a place that you happen to hold another citizenship in. Maybe they'll like you better. But I want to go over to first Pierre Poilievre's response to Justin Trudeau. I thought it was quite good. And then I want to get into some of this riot footage and talk about just the contempt the media seems to have for Canadians because the coverage was nothing. The coverage was like, oh, anti-NATO riots were, rocked some cities in Canada. Oh, Montreal was fiery but mostly peaceful. Oh, what are these people upset about? I know that they did condemn it and they did project all this violence and rioting as a bad thing, but it's always the couched way. Oh, there were some riots going on in Montreal. Remember when we pretended in the media that the trucker convoy was an insurrection by people having hot dog roasts outside of Parliament? Oh my goodness, maybe I'm the only one who remembers that. I know all you guys do, but like goodness, when you look at the media, you feel like you're being gaslit, probably because we are. But this was Pierre Poilievre's response to that extremely stupid tweet by Justin Trudeau. Pierre Poilievre says, "You act surprised. We are reaping what you sowed. This is what happens when a prime minister spends 9 years pushing toxic woke identity politics, dividing and subdividing people by race, gender, vaccine status, uh, uh, religion, region, age, and wealth, etc. On top of driving people apart, you systematically break what you used to bring us together, saying Canada is a post-national state and no with no core identity. You erased our veterans and military, the famous five, and even Terry Fox from our passports to replace them with meaningless squirrels, snowflakes, and drawings of yourself swimming as a boy. You opened the borders to terrorists and lawbreakers and called anyone who questioned it racist. You sent out your MPs to say one thing to a mosque and the opposite to a synagogue, one thing to a mandir and the opposite to a gurdwara. Mandir is a Hindu temple and gurdwara is a Sikh temple. You have made Canada a playground for foreign interference. You allowed Iran's IRGC terrorists to legally operate here for 4 years after they murdered 55 of our citizens in a major unprovoked attack. You passed laws that released rampant offenders from prison within hours of their 80th arrest. And what is the result? Assassinations on Canadian soil, firebombings on synagogues, extremist violence against Mandirs and Gurdwaras, over 100 churches burned or vandalized with barely any condemnation from you, all for a total of 251% more hate crime. And while you were dancing and Montreal was burning. We won't let you divide us anymore. Call an election now. We will fire you and reclaim our citizenship, our values, our lives, our freedom, and most of all, our country. And I think that was probably one of the best things that Pierre Poilievre has ever written as the leader of the Conservative Party. There were some very cutting, sharp details in there that I think need to be put forward more often. He very clearly has taken aim at our immigration system as being a massive problem in dividing Canadians. He's gone after Justin Trudeau's enabling of extremists in Canada. You know, the fact that they will condemn Israel to a mosque and then they'll go to a synagogue and pretend and say, like, oh, yes, of course we like Israel. And then the other day he says, oh, yeah, obviously Canada's going to arrest Benjamin Netanyahu. And I think it was like, it wasn't Benny Gantz or whatever, somebody else, like the former defense minister. Oh, yeah, we'll arrest them on behalf of the ICC. That just hive of leftist scum. That's really what the International Criminal Court is. It's a bunch of leftist Antifa types, but now they're in their 60s, and so they write up warrants for the arrest of random world leaders that they don't like, even though they're not doing anything wrong. And before someone says, well, actually, Israel's committing a genocide, they're not. You're an idiot for suggesting that if you did. I don't know how they must suck at genocide because they're not. Their kill ratio between terrorists and civilians is 1-to-1, which is unheard of, especially when your opponents are standing behind civilians. And that is the backdrop to what's going on here. The one thing I would like from Pierre Poilievre and the Conservative Party is I do want very specific numbers on things like immigration. I was talking about this today on social media. I would like the new cap on permanent residencies to be 100,000 a year. The Liberals just lowered it from 496,000 to 395,000. I think 100,000 per year for the next 10 years is good. And you have to pass a values test, a means test, and you don't get to bring every single one of your aunts and uncles here with you. That's not what Canada is about. We keep saying, oh, well, we need more young working age people. Well, then why are we bringing their 60-year-old parents who aren't working a day in their lives and they get all the benefits that the Canadian citizens get who have been paying into them for decades of their lives? Makes no sense to me. Even when I posted that, which doesn't say that, oh, I don't like these people or those people are still like, oh, Wyatt's racist. Oh, screw you, Wyatt. You know, like whatever, expletive off. Like, what? I'm just saying, let's have a lower number. So Trudeau and the Liberals are not racist for wanting the new permanent residencies lowered by 101,000. But if I say I'd like them lowered by, 390,000 to 100,000, oh, why you passed the racist red line where suddenly your math is now racist. Okay, whatever, guys, morons. Anyways, so now let's get into what's been going on in Canada. So I would like the Conservatives clearer on your immigration standards. I want a values test, and I want permanent residencies capped at 100,000. They might not come with the number I want, but they have to come out with a number. I don't want them running on nothing and then pretending well, we never promised to cut it by that much, and then they only reduce it by another 20,000. It has to be substantial. We are already deeply underwater when it comes to the amount of when it comes to just the sheer amount that have come to this country in the last. But this is what happened in Concordia University last a couple days ago. This is where kind of all the violence in Montreal started out. All of these students doing these anti-Israel as well as anti-NATO protests. You'll notice there's a lot of Russian flags. It's been my position, because it's correct, that the actual pro-Russian people usually are on the left, like the real pro-Russians. Not like, I don't like Zelensky, I think he's kind of corrupt. I understand, guys, Ukraine's kind of a corrupt country. That's describing Eastern Europe in general. I don't think that then gives the right for Russia to invade them. But the actual people out there who are just openly just anti-Western, want Russia to win, they don't care what Russia represents, they just like that it's going against the West. Those people have always been on the left. There's a reason why all of these pro-Russian, pro-Palestine people protest together. Don't these people have classes? Like, don't these people, aren't they trying to learn stuff? If they're not, the university should recognize it and just say, well, you're obviously not interested in an education here. You can go and work at Subway. You can go and get a minimum wage job somewhere. You're no longer you're no longer a student here. They should be expelling people for this stuff. But we live in a world where weakness is valued like in terms of administration, and we then value radicalism within the youth, not professionalism, not maturity, loud noises. There was this lady at the protest giving a Hitler salute, throwing her hand up in the air while wearing one of those Palestinian cloths. I can't remember the name of it now. Probably a fine lady. I believe that she was working at Second Cup, and that Second Cup not only terminated her but her franchise. That's good. That's progress. Yeah, and I heard some people saying, "Well, that's cancel culture." That's not what cancel culture is. Cancel culture is the Covington Catholic kids. A kid smiles in the face of a man banging a drum in front of him who approached him while a bunch of black Hebrew Israelites scream about anti-Semitism and like start calling like people homophobic slurs or whatever. That was actual cancel culture. They went after a kid for smiling while wearing a Trump hat and he did nothing. Cancel culture is taking something very minor that somebody did and trying to ruin their lives over it. It's not somebody directly has hatred for Jewish people and is throwing up salutes all over the place and is owning a franchise that they do not have the right for and that was then ripped away from them. That's not cancel culture. That's accountability. Like, obviously, it's not cancel culture if you commit a crime and the police arrest you. I'm not saying what she did was a crime, although I do believe she actually technically incited violence because she said that we need a final solution, intifada final solution type stuff. But, for the most part, this is just accountability when you are a violent psychopath and people think that, yeah, maybe this person shouldn't have a Second Cup franchise. What else do we have here? Like, everything got pretty fiery yesterday. And as people I know pointed out, I'll just use Roy's post here. I think he did a good job of pointing some of this stuff out. CBC, he says, is so useless that despite riots terrorizing Montreal at 6 p.m., its flagship 22 local 8 p.m. local news program or a 10 p.m. local news program hasn't reported it. Hours later, still no report on its 24-hour, overwhelmingly pre-recorded news channel. Guess it means that country you once knew is already dead. And yeah, like that's the crazy thing that's going on here. None of this is reported by mainstream. Just clear on Spanish windows. I'm sorry, are these windows Zionists too? And the tolerant left, everyone. Remember again, we had people locked up for multiple years for protesting lockdowns and mandates. And these people get to roam free on the streets. Again, deport any of these people who are not citizens. If they are citizens, arrest them and have them held in prison for multiple months. You should actually have to feel the consequences of your own actions. It's crazy how you can just get away with this stuff in Canada these days. And Justin Trudeau doesn't care. His statement saying, "Oh, there was violence in Montreal and we condemn it and people should be held accountable." No, people should be put in prison or put on planes and shipped out of the country for stuff like this. And people were saying, well, it was a lot of locals participating in this. This isn't a problem with immigration. No, it is. Why do you think that Palestinian protests have become so popular over the past 10 years? It's a lot of people who came here recently causing trouble, and our government's too feckless and pathetic to say that somebody who hates us and would like our civilization to end, as well as hates Jewish people and wants Israel to end, they should just be able to stick around because they're enriching our culture. No, they're not. That's called being a leech. That is called being a hateful leech. They can go. If any of these people are collecting benefits, they should be canceled and then they should be stuck on a plane. I think one of the truly hilarious things about all this is that the same people going up and smashing shopping districts, calling for final solutions for like Jews in Israel and whatnot, these are the same people who support Bill C-63's hate speech, like regulations and laws that would put you under house arrest for potentially saying something hateful, because they know that none of this is actually considered hateful in the eyes of our leftist government. All this is just cool stuff. This is just normal. They're just having fun. They just want justice, guys. There's justice behind those windows that they're smashing. They have to go find the justice. You gotta love all the people in Quebec who then look down on provinces like Alberta. Guys, get your own stuff together in your own province, in your own cities, and then tell us that we are, hillbillies out here. We don't care about we don't care about the climate change. You bunch of boors. You guys don't care about climate change. And then like flames are all around them in the background in Montreal. People swinging, like throwing, people flying Hamas flags and burning Israeli flags and Canadian flags. All that is just so absurd. This was also at Concordia the day before. But what would happen on the 21st? There was these Concordia riots and occupations of the campus, and then it turned the next day into the riots all over Montreal with the Black Bloc Antifa people and Hamas activists, the foreign activists, running around the streets smashing things. Fight section and diverse. Fight section and diverse. We want action. We want action. A country that can't figure out that these people shouldn't be here or that these people shouldn't be punished and arrested and jailed is a country that is going to let itself just be, sucked down the drain. Who cares? Is there anything worth defending in Canada? I think so, but Trudeau doesn't. And the thing is, I think that as Canadians, we have to have a stronger level of accountability on even our politicians on our side. I think as conservatives, if you're a conservative, we need to make sure that her conservative representatives are going to be pushing for harsh punishments for people who take part in anti-Western riots, deportations for people who are not citizens, revocations of permanent residencies for people who are not yet citizens, just jail time for people who live here. We need to lower immigration rates. We need to defund universities that put up with this stuff. It's not, oh well, they're allowed to manage their money their way. No, they should have their taxpayer money seized and not given over to them if they are going to become hubs and hives of anti-Western scumbag behavior. We are training people who would rather see our own countries burn just to make a statement about Palestine rather than actually build communities with other people. Our immigration system has just caused massive enclaves to pop up all over the place. Places where there are just no English zones in Canada, where you go into certain neighborhoods and not a single person knows English, and they're never incentivized to learn English. That's why with my cap of 100,000 people, I also had standards where you don't have to speak English well to a certain standard, you're gone. You can't actually, you're trying to bring in 7 dependents with you. You can't do that. You're anti-Western in any way, you're gone, and that shouldn't be controversial. And yet, you will still have people being like, well, that's pretty racist. What are you talking about? How is that racist? That's a objective standard that anyone can meet if they just try. My goodness. Anyways, I guess that's it for me today, guys. It's kind of depressing to live in Canada, but it's good knowing that we actually can do things to make it a better country. If you want to help me out in my quest to try and get more hard nosed conservatives into parliament, into legislatures, sign up on my website, wyattclaypool.com. I'm starting an organizing list and I've been running it for a month or two now. I just don't promote it as much. If you sign up to it, I can recommend good people in your local nominations, federally and provincially, as well as the leadership races, federally and provincially, to kind of like guide you on who's a good candidate, who's a bad candidate, who's somebody who will actually get stuff done, who's basically just a part of a political machine who has no thoughts of their own. I can kind of like help walk you through that. And you can even send in recommendations to me if you have a nomination going on in your area. And I can also give information that you provide me over to other people in your area. And that way, as real conservatives, we can kind of talk and kind of organize to make sure real conservatives then enter parliament as well. Anyways, that's it for me today, guys. I'll see you guys next time. My website, wyattclaypool.com, by the way, is linked both in the description below as well as linked at the top of the comments. See you guys later.